It wasn't perfect, but Drake Maye makes a strong case in his first real preseason action. Let's start the QB debate here on Patscast.
Cash rolling through this town. Look at Drake Maye, the talk around. Jacoby's been here.
Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. The Patriots dropped their second preseason game, 14-3. Had a chance to win it there down the stretch with Bailey Zappi in the game, but Liam Fornadell had a bad snap at the center position, and that was all she wrote. But the real story coming out of this game was Drake Maye and his impressive performance after Jacoby Brissett really didn't play so well. So there's going to be a real debate starting here, and we'll start it here with some instant reaction here on Patscast. But first, you really need a VPN in 2024 to protect yourself from hackers, from getting your credit card information, your data stolen, your passwords stolen, all of that. Everyone needs a VPN in 2024, and that's why ExpressVPN has a special offer for Patscast listeners. Get 3 months off a 12-month annual plan by visiting expressvpn.com/Patscast. Take advantage of this special offer. If you don't have a VPN, again, that's expressvpn.com/Patscast. But like I was saying, Drake Maye, very strong performance. Yeah, if you look at the stats, it doesn't look like it was super impressive. 6 of 11, 47 yards. Did have a sack in there where he lost about 8 yards because of Vidarian Lowe's protection that almost had his head taken off. But I think the real comparison is happening not so much because Drake Maye played well, but because Jacoby Brissett did not. He does not look comfortable out there. Jacoby Brissett does not. And I think he's had enough rough practices behind this battered offensive line and this unit with Vidarian Lowe and having Michael Wenu at right guard. And it doesn't all make a lot of sense. And he's been wearing the red jersey. Now he knows he's going to get hit. And yeah, you want to see a veteran have a little bit more resilience than that. But I got to say, Jacoby Brissett just does not look comfortable at all out there. Had some issues with accuracy, underthrew one ball, overthrew another, and of course he had that red zone interception where the safety undercut the route. I believe the pass was intended for Austin Hooper. That really should have been a pick six. I don't know why the safety didn't go for the end zone on the other side. I think he was just kind of phoning it in because it was a preseason game. But it was a great play by the safety, but I think that would have been a pick six in a real NFL regular season game. And just Jacoby Brissett really struggled. 3 of 7, 17 yards total. Didn't give up any sacks, but we've been talking about how bad this Patriots offensive line has been, at least in the first and second quarter with Brissett and Drake Maye out there. Even with the second unit, the O-line didn't look that bad. Yeah, they had a hard time generating a real run game, but it's not like Brissett didn't have time to throw the football. There was one play where he didn't have a lot of time, but he also slipped, and he stepped up in the pocket and kind of checked it down, and the ball was dropped, I believe, by Douglas. That could have been a sack. So it was a good heads-up play on Brissett's part, but it was also because he slipped. And you see that red zone interception. You see him kind of playing scared a little bit behind this offensive line. And I think it really opens the door, potentially, for Drake Maye after his performance today. Now, do I think this is going to happen? No, I really do not. But I want to start to make the case, and certainly a lot of Patriots fans are going to be making the case to start Drake Maye after this game. Because Drake Maye came in at the start of the second quarter and had basically a second unit offensive line in front of him, plus Vidarian Lowe, who was with the first team unit, really struggled all game. We'll get to Lowe in just a second, but Drake Maye really did an excellent job at, going through his reads. Yeah, there were moments where he was a bit indecisive, did have a pre-snap penalty, which I wasn't sure if it was Drake Maye's fault or the center's fault or ultimately Vidarian Lowe. It was probably Vidarian Lowe, who jumped off sides before the snap. There were some issues there, right? A fumbled snap at one point. Joe Milton had one later in the game. Yeah, there's rookie issues still going on there for sure. But Drake Maye offers something that Jacoby Brissett does not, and that is mobility, which is something the Patriots really need at the quarterback position. And if they're not going to consider Joe Milton, the other quarterback who's very mobile, well, you should probably consider the future franchise quarterback that is Drake Maye, who may not be quite as athletic as Joe Milton, but he made plenty of plays with his legs. A lot of plays that could have been, probably would be sacks, and he was able to even just get up the field, second and long, he gets 4 or 5 yards with his legs on a play that should have been a sack. That's something we really haven't seen in New England other than when they had Cam Newton, who couldn't throw the football. So when you have Drake Maye out there, he offers some cushion there that you're not going to get with Jacoby Brissett. Maybe you could have gotten it with Brissett a few years ago, but he certainly lost the step. And, Maye looked a lot more comfortable out there, made some great throws. There was one route to Javon Baker. That was an excellent throw. His 2 best throws of the day were deep bombs that were drops by Javon Baker. But if Baker had come up with one of those catches, especially the second one in the second half, that would have been the highlight of the game. But Drake Maye doing a good job at taking what the defense is giving him. I don't mind the checkdowns. I really don't, especially with rookie quarterbacks. You want them willing to do that, but you also want them willing to take risks and throw the ball downfield, which Drake Maye was willing to do. And, he commanded the offense really well on that touchdown drive. The running game got going. The passing game got going. There was a nice play by Jalen Polk where he could have lost a yard on a catch, and he avoided 2 defenders and got about 5-6 yards off of it. So Polk looked pretty good, even though he didn't do a lot other than that. But Drake Maye ultimately led them down on a touchdown drive and on an option play, rushed it into the end zone with that signature flip that I've seen in college, and it's a lot cooler than the Dougie or whatever that thing was that Mac Jones was doing. I like the flip. It's classy and a little flashy, but not too much. That's what you need. You need a leader out there who doesn't care about being flashy, but can show it a little bit, and that's what Drake Maye did. I think that's why he should start, because of the flip. If there's any argument, it's the flip. That's why Drake Maye should be out there. But again, it's not so much that Drake Maye was amazing. He should have completed 2 more passes on 2 deep bombs to Javon Baker. Really should have been 8 of 11 for 90 yards instead of 6 of 11 for 47 yards. But it's the mobility, it's the athleticism, it's the arm strength, it's the willingness to take the check down and to throw it deep and to extend plays with his legs. And it's also the fact Jacoby Brissett just does not look comfortable out there, at least in the limited preseason action that we've seen from him. Hopefully going forward, we got, 10 days before the last preseason game against the Washington Commanders. These practices I don't believe are open to the public, but media can still be there. But I'd like to see Drake Maye start to get snaps behind that first-team offensive line. But more importantly, I'd like to see that first-team offensive line change, because there were plenty of players that were in that second-team unit with Drake Maye that should be starting. And I think that's also part of the reason Drake Maye might have looked better than Jacoby Brissett, because maybe he didn't have a better old line in front of him. Maybe he didn't overall have better receivers out there, but he did have Javon Baker. He did have Jalen Polk, and he had guys like Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, who I think should be in that starting unit on that offensive line. And the biggest reason why is because the Patriots have been playing Vidarian Lowe at left tackle for a couple of weeks now, and we've been hearing, he's having a great camp. He's having a great camp. Well, he struggled in last week's preseason game against the Panthers, against third and fourth string defensive players, and then he was even worse today with penalties. And there was one play where he had the running back chip on the player he was trying to block. So essentially you have 2 players, Vidarian Lowe and the running back, I don't know, it might have been Kevin Harris or Hasty or one of those guys, chipping. So you have 2 players blocking, and that makes it very easy for Vidarian Lowe. The guy blows right by him, and Drake Maye gets blindside sacked. Almost, could have been a sack that ended Drake Maye's rookie season prematurely. And that was all because of Vidarian Lowe on an easy pickup from the running back, a nice chip, and he couldn't even still stop the defensive player. I get the argument for having Vidarian Lowe out there in that he's thin, he can move around a little bit better than some of these bigger tackles. And when you're running like a wide zone scheme, you want tackles that can move around. But first of all, I don't think the Patriots are going to stick with this wide zone West Coast offense completely. I mean, they're already implementing duos and power runs in the old running game. And Vidarian Lowe, yeah, he's thin and can move quick, but he also is thin and gets beaten nearly every play now. We all know what's going to happen if Vidarian Lowe's out there at left tackle. Patriots fans are screaming about it, and we need a replacement there, whether it is moving Chukwuekorfor, who also struggled today, from right tackle over to left tackle and then figuring out the right spot, or getting Caden Wallace in there as the starting left tackle, which is the long-term plan and the reason the Patriots drafted him in the early rounds. And Caden Wallace, I mean, you got to watch more film, right? But from what I saw, didn't look bad with Drake Maye out there with him in protection. And Leighton Robinson, the guard that they took in the 4th round, has been a very pleasant surprise. And I think there's a real argument that he should be in that starting offensive unit. And I heard Greg Bedard talking about this on his podcast this week. You know, Mike Onwenu spent the offseason preparing to play right tackle. He got paid as if he is a right tackle. And the Patriots kick him back to right guard, his position of old, where he's great, don't get me wrong. And I think the reason is, hey, at least you have 3 solid players, Sidy Sow, David Andrews, and Mike Onwenu. And then you can worry about the tackles. At least the quarterback can step up and extend the play that way if the tackles break down. But you want the best overall offensive line out there. Mike Onwenu has been preparing to play right tackle. He's been paid like a right tackle. Kick him over there. Let's not worry about it anymore. And then let's move, potentially, Leighton Robinson into the right guard role, which I think he's earned with the way he's played at training camp over the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's been great. And then figure out the left tackle position, not Vidarian Lowe, but could be Chukwuekorfor and Caden Wallace, and make that the starting line. And then, you know, Cole Strange will come back, and he'll replace, in all likelihood, either Leighton Robinson or Sidy Sow. He's a left guard typically. We'll see if Cole Strange actually does come back, but you can figure that out later. If Sidy Sow's the odd man out, or Leighton Robinson, the rookie, is the odd man out. But I think that is your best offensive line, is Caden Wallace or Okorafor at left tackle, Sidy Sow at left guard, David Andrews at center, and Leighton Robinson at right guard, and then Mike Onwenu at right tackle. I think that gives them the best chance to win. And yeah, maybe you're not going to have quick athletic tackles out there that are going to be able to run the wide zone scheme very well. But, I mean, is Vidarian Lowe really going to be all that effective out there, even if you are running the wide zone scheme? I don't see it. And look, I think Alex Van Pelt knows, like, hey, this is my offense, but with the players we have to go to the power run a little bit more. We have to do gap stuff because this isn't working. It looks like the Matt Patricia days because they have players out there that are designed to block for a gap scheme and not necessarily a wide zone scheme. So, yeah, let's get Vidarian Lowe out of there and then figure out what the best combination is. And hopefully that's something that will happen in practice over the next 10 days and with the last preseason game against the Washington Commanders and ideally week 1. But a few players who struggled today, other than, of course, Vidarian Lowe. Javon Baker had a nice catch early in the game, but 2 of Drake Maye's best throws, deep bombs to Javon Baker, both dropped right into his hands. The first one wouldn't have been a catch because he ran along the sideline and got pushed out of bounds, which was not a very good heads-up play on his part, but it was still a great throw by Drake Maye. And then the second one, the second half, he definitely should have had. Yeah, it was a difficult play. He was diving, but Drake Maye laid it out there for him. That's the kind of play that Javon Baker typically makes, and you got to make those catches. But he did not have the best day, and I think he'll get okay playing time early in the regular season, but didn't make a strong case for at least being part of that starting lineup at wide receiver. And then Marcellus Dial at cornerback really struggled today, which was disappointing because he's had a very good training camp. And, you know, with guys like Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones being beat up, you know, they're starting to run out of options at the cornerback position. And yeah, we all trust Christian Gonzalez out there, but you know, we talk about defensive depth, and they have a ton of it. I'm not worried about Matthew Judon being gone. Keon White looks great out there, but if there's any position that doesn't have probably the necessary amount of depth, it is cornerback. And I was really hoping that we could have a situation where Christian Gonzalez and Marcellus Dial are lining up on opposite sides of the field. he didn't make a strong case today. I think he'll make the team. He's had a very good training camp, but it was a big setback today. Plenty of plays where he was guarding. Philadelphia has some great tight ends and receivers way down on the depth chart too, which didn't help. But you still want Marcellus Style. If he's going to start in the NFL, he has to make stops there, and he did not do so today. Joe Milton came back to earth a little bit today, and maybe I spoke too soon, declaring him the greatest quarterback of all time. And then I amended that and said, no, that's disrespectful to Tom Brady. He's the second greatest quarterback of all time. I think he's probably somewhere between 5 or 10 after today's performance. But we saw the weaknesses in Joe Milton that were kind of hidden last week. First of all, he throws the ball 100 miles an hour, whether he's throwing it 60 yards downfield or 5 yards downfield. And there was one check down he threw to the running back that was a fastball, and it just hit him right in the chest. And there were a couple plays like that where it was like, all right, you got to take a little bit off the ball, Joe Milton. And, he wasn't great pre-snap, had a fumble. Not sure if it was his fault or the center's. I think that was Fornadell out there, so he didn't have a very good game at center. I was actually really hopeful about Fornadell because Antonio Maffei has just been horrible at center throughout training camp, and poor Drake Maye has had to take snaps from him when David Andrews has been out because the other backup center, whose name is slipping from me right now, the guy coming from Tampa Bay, Nick Leverett, that's who it is, he would end up being the first team center, and that meant Antonio Maffei would be the second team center, which means Drake Maye had to take snaps from him. It hasn't worked out. Maffei is a guard. He's not a center. He shouldn't be out there. And then Fornadell, who's had a pretty good camp as kind of the fourth string center, got snaps at third string today. And I was like, great. All right, we're going to get to see this. And then bad exchange with Joe Milton, and then had the bad snap in the shotgun to Bailey Zappi that ultimately cost them the game. So, yeah, Fornadell is definitely in the down list, but Joe Milton came back to earth a little bit, wasn't able to do a lot, almost threw what should have been a pick six on his first throw of the night, and same thing happened last week, a play that should have been a pick six. And you hear this from University of Tennessee fans. They're like, Joe Milton, very athletic, incredible arm, makes some incredible throws that are very accurate, but he will throw bad interceptions quite frequently, and he puts himself in harm's way too. Like, he lowered his shoulder on the Eagles defensive players and just took them down. He took 2 defensive players down on his last scramble of the game, which was pretty funny to see. But he's having a hard time picking things up. He was supposed to run a bootleg to his left, I believe, and he ran it to his right, and then almost made a great throw off of it. But he's got a long way to go. But I think ultimately Drake Maye and Joe Milton as your top 2 QBs on the depth chart, that's not too shabby. If Drake Maye turns out to be a real franchise quarterback, and then Joe Milton, depending on how he develops, could be a decent backup, or if he looks really good, you could trade him down the road. Or if Drake Maye gets some action this year, struggles, then you have a real QB competition between the two of them next offseason. So there's a lot of things you can do with Joe Milton, but we saw today that he has a ways to go. Patriots defense, first and second unit looked very good today. Didn't skip a beat with Matthew Judon no longer out there. I think Keon White is going to make the case for being the best defensive player on the team this year. He looks incredible. And Anthony Jennings, who the Patriots extended, looks great on the defensive side. Eagles really couldn't do much except for when Tanner McKee was at quarterback. Who is this guy? He looked pretty good today. His throwing motion, his release, there's something off about it, but he was making some incredible throws and was really the only quarterback for the Eagles that was able to generate any sort of offense. Will Grier struggled, and of course Kenny Pickett, the Patriots were just sacking him all day. Let's see. Yeah, Kenny Pickett took 4 sacks, and then Will Grier took 1 sack. I'll be interested to see how many times the Patriots defense, I wasn't paying close enough attention, but how many times they blitzed. They blitzed like 50% of the time in their first preseason game against Panthers backup players, which is an odd decision. Yeah, they went out there and they dominated, but if you're blitzing every play, are you really evaluating your defensive players the best way possible? So I'll be interested to see coming out of this game just how much that defense blitzed again today. But overall, they looked really good with the first and second unit out there. So much depth at defense, particularly on that defensive line, at the linebacker position. I think defensive back is not as deep as I thought it was, especially with Marcellus Dial's performance today, but still a top 10 NFL defense, potentially top 5. So I'm really not worried about them. But going to be interesting in the coming days to see what happens with Jacoby Brissett and Drake Maye. I hope they start to give Drake Maye some real first-team reps, make this a real competition, and these final 2 or 3 weeks, Patriots can make a decision and not just automatically hand it to Jacoby Brissett, because like I said, he looks very uncomfortable out there and does not trust his offensive line. And all Drake Maye knows is having bad offensive lines. Like, look at the O-lines that he had in college. Like, Maye handles that a lot better than Jacoby Brissett does, just because of his mobility and the fact that he's kind of used to that, whereas Brissett, even though he's a veteran, is kind of a little bit more dependent. He's become more of a pocket passer over his career. He's more dependent on that passing protection. So strong showing from Drake Maye. I wouldn't bet on it, though. And I have a kind of a cynical reason why, and it's because it's not so much Gerard Mayo, it's that Alex Van Pelt, the new offensive coordinator, everything I've heard, he's basically the head coach of the offense. Gerard Mayo, he's watching the offense. He was watching the offense at joint practice against the Eagles the other day, but we know defense is Gerard Mayo's bread and butter, and he needs a lot of help being a head coach on the offensive side of the ball, and that's why they brought in Alex Van Pelt, who has a lot of experience out there. But as we've seen in New England these last few years, offensive coordinators have a very short shelf life, and if they don't impress in a single year, they're gone and they're out the door. And Alex Van Pelt has had Jacoby Brissett in his offenses before, back in Cleveland. He's comfortable with Jacoby Brissett, but he can also make the case, we're rebuilding. And yeah, Jacoby Brissett was a bridge quarterback. It wasn't ideal, but let's say the Patriots go 4-13 again, he can go, yeah, but next year's the year where we develop and we put Drake Maye out there, and then we can really see what this offense is made of. We knew this wasn't a one-year rebuild anyway. It's playing it safe, basically, for Alex Van Pelt, having Jacoby Brissett out there, whereas if he goes with Drake Maye early on, I don't know if he's making that decision. It should be Gerard Mayo, but maybe it is Alex Van Pelt's decision. Drake Maye struggles. The team goes 4-13. They're gonna fire Alex Van Pelt and find another offensive coordinator next year. Maybe they'll bring Josh McDaniels back. I don't know. Go back to the old Patriots offense. There's a lot of playing it safe. We're in a long-term rebuild if you sit Drake Maye and you have Jacoby Brissett out there, which means job security. But look, as a Patriots fan, and I know all the fans feel this way, we don't care about your job security. We care about winning football games. And yes, maybe there's a big boom-bust potential this season if you put Drake Maye out there as the starter. There's a real chance it's a bust. Even if he turns into a great franchise quarterback down the road, we know the situation he's in. But which quarterback puts this team in the best position to win football games right now? I'm taking the guy who can be a little bit more mobile out there, a guy who is only going to improve and only going to get better, whereas I think Jacoby Brissett's on the tail end of his career, probably only going to regress at this point. Your best chance at having a good football team this year is putting out the future franchise quarterback who you drafted at number 3 overall. These guys generally start. Yes, I know. There's other. Patrick Mahomes sat out a year, and it turned out great for him. He won the MVP the next year. Aaron Rodgers sat out like 3 years or whatever. Jordan Love did the same thing. There's a case for sitting the quarterback. And yeah, Drake Maye has a lot of issues to figure out. Pre-snap, getting in and out of the huddle, accuracy issues. But he's going to be able to hide some of the dysfunction of that Patriots offensive line, which is certainly in a 2-year rebuild. And I think you got to put the quarterback out there that's going to give you the biggest boom potential, and that's not Jacoby Brissett. That's Drake Maye. But again, I'm not going to bet on it because job security is very important, and playing it safe with Jacoby Brissett really just buys you a year. And yes, I know that's a cynical take, but these are human beings, and if I were in Alex Van Pelt's shoes, I would probably consider going with the quarterback that I trust, that I've worked with before, and that may extend my job security at least another year, because this is Alex Van Pelt's real first shot as an offensive coordinator. Yes, he was an OC in Cleveland, but he was not the play caller. He's called like 2 or 3 games throughout his entire NFL career. If he fails here, he's probably never going to get a shot again. He's been in the NFL for a long time. Yeah, he'll get a role on the staff for some team, but this is his real only shot at being a legitimate offensive coordinator, a play caller, and a guy who is essentially the head coach of the offense. He is one of the, if not the most powerful offensive coordinator in the league, because their head coach, Drake Maye, is delegating everything to him. So I don't think he's going to do it, but I hope he does. It would be the bold move, and it may pay dividends if Drake Maye works out this year. But Patriots have a lot to work on. Very happy with the defense. I think there's a lot of players that should be starting that are in that second unit. Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, Jalen Polk should definitely be out there as a starter, not Tyquan Thornton. I don't care how consistent he's been throughout camp. Kayshon Boutte has been playing well all of camp, all of preseason. I hope he makes the team. I don't think he should start. I don't think Javon Baker is quite ready to start, but I think he should get a lot of playing time. Patriots really need to work this out over the next 10 days, because it's going to get real very quickly, and there's sort of this attitude that, hey, if you're a veteran, you're always going to be the starter out there regardless of how the rookies play. They got to stop treating rookies as if they're second-tier players. Give guys like Jalen Polk, who certainly deserves to start, a shot, and Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, and potentially Drake Maye. You know, maybe this is just Drake Maye, his old school style of thinking perhaps, because he's been in the NFL as a player and he saw rookies put in a similar situation, a prove-it situation with Bill Belichick. Prove it 4 times over, the guy starting ahead of you if you want to make it. But I think a lot of these guys have already proven it. So gonna be fun to see what happens the next few days. I hope Alex Van Pelt and Drake Maye really figure out the best combination on that O-line and give Drake Maye a real shot at earning that job before week 1, because he made a real case today. And it's very exciting and encouraging for us Patriots fans. And we know we might have our future franchise quarterback now, but for him to get better, he needs real game reps. And this season's a throwaway anyway. Might as well put the guy out there. But that's just my argument. We'll see what happens. You like this video, be sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and we'll see you later this week, or maybe we'll be back next week. If there's any Patriots breaking news, we'll be here to cover it here at Pat's Cast.
Pat's Cast rolling through this town. The rookie Drake Maye, the talk around. Jacoby's been here, held his ground. Oh, what a showdown, let's get loud. May steps and throws the ball so clean. Tuesday better than we've seen. Jacoby, you know it has been. Pat's Cast says it's a new scene. Pat's Cast, get ready to stand up tall. Rookie or vet, has got it all. Pat's Cast, the talk around the hall. Place your bets, it's football brawl. Youth and fire, first to tried and true. Pat's Cast, listen, what's our cue? Can the rookie break on through, or does the vet start anew? Drake Maye's got the spark, you know. Can he take us to the show? Jacoby's grip might still control. Oh, Pat's Cast, let's rock and roll. Future's murky, lines are blurred. Hear the voices, feel the word. On Pat's Cast, the echoes heard. Who's the one who lead the herd? Oh yeah. Pat's Cast, get ready to stand up tall. Rookie or vet, has got it all. Pat's Cast, the talk around the hall. Place your bets, it's football brawl. Youth and fire, thirst to tried and true. Pat's Cast, listen, what's our cue?